我是安博人。The laughably fake portrayal of China as bad and the US as good is becoming more and more clear as Beijing struggles against America's political games to send much-needed aid to the people of earthquake-hit Syria. And a shocking expose about the US being behind the Nord Stream pipeline explosions shows the levels Washington will go to stay on top while smashing every other country down, even their so-called allies. This is Reports on China. I am Andy Borham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. At least 12,000 people have lost their lives so far after a massive 7.8 earthquake hit Turkey and Syria on February 6, with many governments scrambling to send rescue teams and aid to the two countries. China has already sent a top 82-member rescue team to Turkey and has also sent 40 million RMB in emergency aid as well as urgently needed disaster relief supplies. But when it comes to Syria, there's a problem. Syria is heavily sanctioned by the US, whose military currently occupies an oil-rich area in the northeastern part of the country. This means that much-needed aid cannot reach the government there. China's foreign ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said, "The devastating earthquakes on top of years of war and turmoil have left Syria in a terrible humanitarian crisis. The UN and the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies have called for emergency aid to Syria to avoid further deterioration of its humanitarian situation." The US has long been engaged in the Syrian crisis. Its frequent military strikes and harsh economic sanctions have caused huge civilian casualties and taken away the means to subsistence of the Syrians. As we speak, the US troops continue to occupy Syria's principal oil-producing regions. They've plundered more than 80% of Syria's oil production and smuggled and burned Syria's grain stock. All this has made Syria's humanitarian crisis even worse. In the wake of the catastrophe, the US should put aside geopolitical obsessions and immediately lift the unilateral sanctions on Syria to unlock the doors for humanitarian aid to Syria. So basically, America's political games and hideous sanctions, which ultimately just punish ordinary people, are putting tens of thousands of lives at risk now in quake-hit Syria. As has been proven time and time again with China, a fact which is unfortunately never reported in Western media and unknown by the majority of ordinary Westerners, China only seeks win-win cooperation and mutual respect from its dealings with other countries, all the while being portrayed as aggressive, dangerous, and unruly by the US-led Western media. This is obviously far from the truth. The reality is that it's the US and the US alone who is aggressive, dangerous, and unruly. As Mao Ning mentioned, the US continues to this day to plunder Syria's natural resources, even as its citizens suffer under this hideous natural disaster. Another vivid example came to light yesterday, showing that the US led the planning and execution of the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipelines last September. Now, for anyone who's unfamiliar with this situation, the Nord Stream pipelines were created to supply natural gas directly from Russia to Germany and Western Europe, which the US was unhappy about because of the leverage it gave Russia, and because it meant the US had less power in the region. Seasoned investigative journalist Seymour Hersh, who won the Pulitzer Prize for his expose of the massacre of Vietnamese civilians by American troops at My Lai, Vietnam in 1968, has released a damning article outlining how the US blew up the pipelines and how they knew what they were doing was effectively an act of war. This, of course, is something anyone with a brain has already accepted, but which has literally not been touched by any mainstream media in the US or the West in general, even after President Joe Biden literally hinted at destroying the natural gas pipelines in a media conference. Take a look.
If Russia invades, that means tanks and troops crossing the border of Ukraine. Again, then there will be no longer Nord Stream 2. We will bring it 心理的状态是会什么样的？他觉得这些观众朋友们会不会喜欢他？还是说什么呢？会评论里面会写什么呢？我都不用管这些啊。你脑子里就你想好的，你为一些部分人开心，我们就。
And who could forget Secretary of State Blinken salivating over the situation just after the act of war was carried out? He said, "It's a tremendous opportunity to once and for all remove the dependence on Russian energy and thus to take away from Vladimir Putin the weaponization of energy as a means of advancing his imperial designs. That's very significant and that offers tremendous strategic opportunity for the years to come." Hirsch talked with an anonymous source close to the Nord Stream sabotage project, who admitted it was planned by President Joe Biden and the CIA and executed with the help of Norway and a team from the US Navy's Diving and Salvage Center. I seriously recommend you guys read the entire piece, which outlines the planning and execution in detail. I'll put the link under this video. Here's just one excerpt. Over the next several meetings, the participants debated options for an attack. The Navy proposed using a newly commissioned submarine to assault the pipeline directly. The Air Force discussed dropping bombs with delayed fuses that could be set off remotely. The CIA argued that whatever was done, it would have to be covert. Everyone involved understood the stakes. This is not kiddie stuff, the source said. If the attack were traceable to the United States, it's an act of war. And that is exactly what it is, an act of war. The US and Norway not only allegedly attacked Russian infrastructure, but also the infrastructure of its close ally, Germany. The attack plunged much of Europe into a freezing winter without heating, sent energy prices skyrocketing, and forced Europe and other parts of the world to be more reliant on gas supplied by the US and Norway. Honestly, you guys, I think it's abundantly clear that the US-led framing of China as a threat to world peace and stability has been proven wrong on so many occasions that you'd have to wonder if anyone who still believes it has a single brain cell left. It's not only patently false, but it's exactly the opposite. China is a force for good and for fairness and respect in the international community. And the US is violent, dangerous, and hell-bent on smashing anyone down who they see as a threat to the superiority, even their close allies. Anyway, you guys, I'm already a bit too angry, so I better leave it there. But first, let's take a quick look at the latest reports on China poll on YouTube. I asked you guys if you think I was a little mean to CNN's Selena Wang in my recent videos. Around 3,000 of you voted, with 79% saying I wasn't harsh at all, 17% saying I was a bit harsh but fair at the same time, and 4% feeling I was a bit too mean. I really do appreciate your feedback, guys, which is why I do regular polls and also read your comments on every video. So do let me know what you think down below, and hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Hello， 大家好。